ceasefire. So we could get the aid into the Palestinian civilians, we could get the hostages out, and we could get that space for peace. And the need to get that peace process going has never ever been so urgent. I've been really proud of our Foreign Affairs spokesperson, Layla Moran, who's the first ever member of parliament with a Palestinian heritage. Her mother was Palestinian. Until very recently, she had members of her family in Gaza. They were Christians, Palestinian Christians, in a church. And they lost one of their members of the family because it was too dangerous to go to hospital to get some treatment. So our Foreign Affairs spokesperson, who leads for us on Gaza, has been personally deeply affected by this. And she's helped us, I think, get some profile on our position, which I think actually speaks to people, frankly, of all religions. Obviously it speaks to people from the Muslim faith, but it also speaks to people who believe in the rule of law, in internationalism, in humanitarian policies. So we're proud that we've taken the lead on that. We've taken lead on, for example, there being no arms sales to Israel. We actually had that policy before this latest conflict, because we think that arms export licenses shouldn't be granted. The presumption should be against them being granted, particularly if there's human rights problems. And of course there are on the occupied Palestinian territories, as we all know. I recently went on a trip to Israel and the occupied territories, going to East Jerusalem. And what I witnessed was a trauma on both peoples, actually. A trauma on the Israeli people, who saw loved ones killed and have had hostages taken from their families on what I consider to be an appalling event on October the 7th. And it's important we remember and are clear about that tragedy and what was deeply wrong. But of course I met Palestinians who were utterly traumatized by what is happening in Gaza. And whether it's the killing of so many people, women, children, innocent people, whether it's the blockade of food and water and medicine, which is unacceptable, it has to stop. And we've been making that argument in Parliament strongly, noting it has to be a ceasefire. And we'll continue to do that. And I made that call when I was speaking to Israelis as well as Palestinians on my recent trip. And what was worrying, and many conversations I had, particularly with some of the Palestinian activists in Jerusalem, was we're seeing the violence, not just in Gaza, but in the West Bank. There's been a rise in settler violence, Israeli settler violence against Palestinian communities in the West Bank. And I worry that that could be another cause of escalation. We talk about Iran, we talk about Hezbollah and Lebanon. We're worried, we don't want any escalation, but there could be an escalation in the West Bank too. So I called for the UK government to have sanctions on two Israeli government ministers, a guy called Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, who are representatives of these more extreme settlers, and some of their words have frankly been inciting violence, and I think they should be sanctioned by the UK government. Send a real signal that that's unacceptable, and to try to be forced to prevent that settler violence, prevent that escalation there. So this is a multi-dimensional issue. It's complicated, but there's one clear thing that needs to be said time and again. We need to get the ceasefire, stop the killing, get around the table, have that peace process. And Liberal Democrats remain committed to that. Let me end by just simply saying, this isn't just one-off thing for us. We have been arguing these principles, international principles, for many years. I go back a very long way, but let me go back to Paddy Ashdown when he was leader of the party, and he spoke up for Muslims in Bosnia and Herzegovina who were being attacked by Serbian Christians. Liberal Democrats don't care what people's religion is, everyone should live in peace and security, should respect and dignity. I go to the Iraq War and Charles Kennedy was leading the party up against the Iraq War. 2009, all part of the trip, because the Israelis bombed Palestine that December and that January, and I wanted to bear witness to what would happen. I caused a report which called for no arms sales to Israel.